for those of you who've had economics before, you've probably heard the word opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the idea that when you do something, you're giving up something else. So you're spending an hour and 15 minutes here right now. What else could you be doing right now? Other stuff. That's your opportunity cost to be in here. In fact, you know, the attendance in my class really isn't, changes in it aren't driven by the cost of gas. They're determined by the opportunity cost to come into my class. When I was up at West Virginia University, you know the classes that I would teach these 400 student lecture halls where you couldn't take attendance. You know what days had the lowest attendance? I could tell you what they were. Like days before spring break or whatever. But also when we had Thursday night football games. National television, ESPN games that start 6 or 7. I had the 3:45 afternoon class. Good friggin' luck getting people there. I mean, the deal was that there was an opportunity that elsewhere that existed that day that didn't normally exist, which is to be on ESPN going, "Hi, Mom, send something," you know, out by Sports Center and drinking with all your buddies out at the tailgates. All right, so the point is, opportunity costs affect our judgment and our decisions, this trade-off we face between what we give up and what we do. And it's really important to tease that through and to really understand why it's so important to look at this. So let me just give you a couple of good examples of this. A lot of people think, well, you know, what we could do to save resources, right, is mandate energy efficient shower heads, which we did, right? So now you go take a shower and you can't get the soap out of your hair, right, because the water isn't flowing out. Now, if you just think well, look, we're consuming less water. True, no question. Does that mean it cuts down on the total number of resources used? Well, that's a different story. In fact, there's an economics paper on this. Think through this with me like an economist. What are the opportunity costs? What is involved here as individuals? How do you make a shower head more energy water efficient? You put extra parts in it. Does anybody have an idea where extra parts come from? Santa makes them and delivers them, right? No, we have new factories that open up. Factories that make parts. And guess what factories that make parts use? Parts. Water, coal, electricity. Right? A legitimate economist would say, look, if we do it, we save on water, but we then, therefore, now we need to produce these extra parts. We need to transport the parts. We need to, how much resources are used there, and look at the relative total effect to see whether you've increased or decreased the usage of resources. We had an economist at my former university who used to rail about our recycling program. That stupid recycling truck would go around campus and would sit parked running for an hour out in front of the building while they went around again. It's using up gas, just sitting there, polluting the air while they come around, and this is at the beginning of the program. So they come back, do a whole building an hour, and come back with a pile of paper about this big. And I'm like, there's no way that's resource efficient. You know, turn off the darn truck. Quit running the truck if you want to save the environment. You know, anyway, but the point is you need to think through these trade-offs. There's a really good example of this called the broken window fallacy. Frederick Bastiat used to say, you know, suppose I took a baseball and I threw it through this window. That's a good way to create jobs, right? Because, I mean, now somebody has to make a new window, install the new window. What do you think? Here's a jobs program for you. Pass a law that we all go around breaking windows. That's great. All the unemployed people could go around breaking windows and we all are just rich now. Because it creates all these jobs. And of course that's not right. Why is it not right? Because when you spend the $300 to fix the window, that's $300 you could have spent on something else. So had the window not been broken, I might have bought myself a new suit. So in the world where the window doesn't get broken, I have a window and a suit. And when I buy the suit, it creates a job making suits. But when the window's broken, I have to create the job fixing the window. And at the end of the day, I just have a window that I had before and no suit. But you've got to think through the opportunity cost. What else could those resources have done had they been left in their alternative use? And it's these opportunity costs and these trade-offs that are really important if you want to do good policy. Okay. Another good example of that is the case of mandating airbags in cars. It costs about $400 per bag to install, and you know we now have like, what, 7, 8 airbags per car. According to the NTSB, airbags saved 750 lives a year over the last decade, people that would have died. Every year there's 750 people whose lives are saved in the US that would have died without airbags being mandated. Just start doing the math with me. We've got $400 times a couple, let's say 5 airbags is like $2,000 per car that we have to pay more for cars, times how many cars we sell each year. And does anybody here know that number? I wouldn't know that number. So, how much?
14 million.
Man, he knows the answer. That's pretty cool. That's impressive. All right, so now I've got to do the math of 14 million times 2,000. You want to do that one for me?
No, 28 billion.
28 billion. So we spend $28 billion a year on airbags and we save 475 lives. Is that a good policy or not? The beauty of economics and the beauty of the idea of opportunity cost is it saves me from going where you're worried I'm all going, which is putting a price on a human life. Here's why. Because in economics, the question isn't, is that a good policy in isolation? The question is if we're going to spend 28 billion? Was that the number? If we're going to spend $28 billion, how do we save the most lives? That's the real question. We're spending $28 billion and we're saving 475 lives a year. The question of whether that's a good policy or not is a question of whether we could have spent $28 billion in a different way that would have saved more than 475 lives a year. If we could have devoted that $28 billion or whatever it is to breast cancer research and saved more lives per year, then the airbag policy is a stupid policy. You're killing people statistically. People in Aspen, Colorado, they're doing this major Superfund site cleanup there that's never killed anybody, but yeah, it's an environmental thing saving billions. And they talk to the doctors at the hospital, and the people are like, you want to know what people are dying from in Aspen? Skiing accidents in this stupid 2-lane road coming into town. He's like, for a fraction of the cost of the Superfund cleanup, we could make that road bigger and save hundreds of lives a year. That's what we mean in economics when we talk about opportunity cost. It's comparing your alternatives. Should I do A or should I do B, and which one helps me achieve my goals the best?